what we're going to jump into, I've staged a couple of demos to start the demos here. I'm just going to start by talking about how the process begins. What we have in this particular case is we have a navigation collection created with the fluid tile with three collections here. We have a section 1. The bottom one is the section 1 area where the employee would be completing the section 1 of the I-9. This can be done via self-service where the employee logs in with an offer ID and comes into PeopleSoft. It can also be signed in many other ways. We support signatures through LDAP integrations, offer ID integrations, and self-provisioned ID for signatures. So section 1 can be done, like I said, either through a self-service process or a manager-led process where the manager would log into their environment and provide the computer to the individual for completing section 1. So we'll talk about some of the other options, links in a few minutes, but we'll just go ahead and start here. So I've started a session in a self-service mode for an employee, for myself, and I will go ahead and fill in the information. So you will see here that I am presented with the instruction links for the I-9 instructions. One of the things that we want to always do is compliant with the requirement that your employees need to be provided all the instructions and information that DHS provides with the I-9. So we provide links out to the DHS site in order to do that. Sorry for the error. So then we have fill out information. We cannot, compliance-wise, default any of this information. So none of it is defaulted for the I-9. But you can see here, I pre-typed in some information. I just typed in the first name and last name of Elaine Goodall with address, my address, and my date of birth, my social security number. I've chose to leave certain fields blank that are not required, and I choose my citizenship status of U.S. citizen. I could choose any of the other 4 options as well. It defaults with today's date, and we can then acknowledge and sign. Once this gives a warning that once we sign the section 1, it will become read-only and not changeable, not editable. Section 1. So we'll go ahead and continue and acknowledge that we do want it to become editable, and we will use, in this case, our offer ID to sign, authorized sign. That's because this is a test signer, and I have multiple ones who can't start multiple section 1s for a user, but that's okay. I'll show you a signature on section 2. So we have completed section 1. Once it's submitted, it then goes to the manager for completion for section 2. Now we will, I'll show you what we see. Let's go back to section 1. So the manager launches and finds the employee section 1 and launches it. I'm not going to go through the process of searching and pulling it up just for the sake of time. We've already gone through a few minutes here, and I do want to have time for question and answers. Once again, this is section 1. We can see all the information that is entered, that the employee entered in section 1. It is read-only, even for the manager. It is not editable. And we see their signature. John Roberts doesn't match the name in this case because it's a test environment, but we'll see the signature, a graphical representation of the signature that the employee used to sign with. And then we go to next. When we hit the next button, we go to section 2. So this is the place where the employer representative can now complete the instructions. Complete section 2. We still have the instructions, the acceptable documents. We have the handbook, the M274, the handbook for employers. We can also print the I-9 with the information that's already done. We can choose to populate with either list A or BC document. If we switch between these two, we'll see that if I choose a BC document, we are presented with 2 options. We'll go ahead and choose a List A document. One thing to note that the document types for both List A, List B, and List C are going to be limited, just as on the DHS fillable PDF form. They limit it by your citizenship status and whether it's a List A document or List B and C document. So the only applicable List A documents for a U.S. citizen are a U.S. passport and U.S. passport card. We'll go ahead and choose a U.S. passport. We'll put in the document number, 441209749. These documents is actually provided as tests from EVerify, so we're actually populating. In fact, I need to go double check my expiration date. I don't remember. It's April 6, 2027. So this is sample data that's given to us from EVerify, and this is a real live demo that will go out to DHS and get a status after we submit it. We also allow you to attach the front and back pictures of your document. I'm not going to put up a document, but I do have some pictures, a sample picture, so you'll see how, this is a picture of my family, you'll see how it will, that will come in. I want to show you how PDF is going to come in. We'll show you a PDF file. We do limit to certain type of picture types and PDF. And we upload them. As you upload them, they do become represented on the page. You'll also see that PDF files have additional functionality provided by the browser that allows you to actually page through it or even print, depending on the browser. So Section 2 is filled in by the employer representative. Some of this information is defaulted. We are allowed to default information compliantly. But we'll go ahead and acknowledge and sign Section 2 at this point. And it gives you a notice that changing any fields after signing will invalidate the signature. Do you wish to proceed? And yes, we do. And so I will just go ahead and complete the signature. After we complete the signature, we do not read only the Section 2 information. However, if any of it's changed, the signature will become invalid and require a re-signature. We'll go ahead and click Next. At this point, it's going out to EVerify, to DHS, and validating with DHS whether there are duplicates. Of course, Wayne Goodall is one of our test cases, so she has all sorts of duplicates out there. Probably 90% of the time in a production environment, duplicates are not applicable. Maybe a little less than that, maybe 85%, but duplicates are checks. This is a case where we see that this is a valid paperless I-9. We have all the information we need. It can be verified. It has all the information to be verified, but it has done a calculation to say this person has been verified before, so I'm not going to. However, we can override that, and we can do yes, we want to acknowledge that we are overriding. We do have to acknowledge by signing overriding of those types of things, but that wouldn't happen very often. This happens because it's a test user that has a lot. We can add additional file attachments that are not related to the Section 2 documents. We'll go ahead and submit this. At this point, it's going out and submitting a case with DHS and creating the EVerify account. At this point, the I-9 is completely compliant and completed in the system. So we have saved that information. It is all good. And now it is creating the EVerify. So you'll see that no additional information was actually required to put in for the EVerify integration piece. It got it all from the information that was placed, except the duplicate acknowledgement. The duplicate acknowledgement, and if there was a late reason, those are additional things that would require input from an employer representative to do EVerify. But all the other data was not duplicated, was not having to be re-entered or anything like that. So now we can go back and we can see the status. We can go ahead and see what the status of our EVerify integration was. EVerify 10 is a disconnected. We could have gone straight into the next one in view, but I wanted to show you the management console. We could have just clicked on through the next. So here we see that we have completed the I-9. It's active, and it has created a case number right here. And we want to take action on the case number because we see it was incomplete. And we see it as in a photo match status. So we will go ahead and say we're going to verify the photo. And this is the of our demo. So if I verify the photo, you will see that it downloads the photo as delivered from DHS after we validate what the information was. And here's the photo delivered by DHS. We can choose matching, not matching. We do that and we submit it, and it completes the submission of the matching photo. We can then continue on to do the next pieces, or in this case, it is actually going to auto close because it'll be employment authorized. At that point, I know we're running out of time, so we'll go ahead and open it up for any questions. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat. Is somebody monitoring that for me?
Paul responded to one that came up earlier.
Okay.
And
Great.
so far, there aren't any others. Did you mention that we do provide full compliance maintenance for these solutions, John? Yeah,
that's correct. There is an annual fee. We do maintain the I-9 and EVerify integrations with any changes that DHS makes. We also provide any support for questions that come from DHS with regards to the process that you are using. So yes, we do all that.
The question that was brought up in the comments was whether you could use this product before the employee had their ID. And we answered that yes, you can start this before they're hired and before they have an ID in the system.
Yes, that is absolutely true. There's several ways to do that. We can either do that through a guest portal process, or you can do that through an employer rep joint session, which is a lot of times happens if when you're performing the hire and you just don't provision with Offer ID for a little while, but they still have access to work with the employer rep. So yes, there's several options for doing that. And like I said, the signature integration can be done with an external LDAP with Offer ID and with a self-provisioned web type of ID. So that gives you the flexibility of making sure that you're compliant on day one, because Section 1 has to be completed before the end of day one in order to be compliant. So we want to make sure that no matter what your situation is, whether Offer IDs or self-services are created or not, we want to make sure you meet that requirement. Yep. Thank you, Paul.
Right. Thank you, John. There is a question from Candy. What are the costs? That is something that the I-9 EVerify solution, which is a bolt-on to PeopleSoft, that is a one-time cost. It's actually available at no additional cost as part of the GT eForms subscription. So any clients out there that use GT eForms for PeopleSoft have access to the I-9 EVerify solutions. There is an annual subscription for the compliance maintenance that John mentioned a couple minutes ago. So that would be an ongoing cost. I'd be more than happy to get a quote over to you, Candy, if you or others have a question. I will go ahead and post my email address in the chats, and you can go ahead and send me an email directly if you'd like a quote or if you have any other questions.
Yeah, it's definitely based on the number of users. The compliance level is based on the number of transactions, I-9 transactions that you do in a year. So it varies, and the risk that of audit that's posed by those transactions, whether you have a high pool that poses audit issues.